Just about every city of importance in antiquity has been built over. Think of Athens or Sparta. Corinth, you can see that it has changed very little. The towering citadel, the Temple of Apollo, you can see how much expanse there was open for archaeologists to come in and begin excavating.
We don't have many ancient sources, and so archaeology is our way of trying to reconstruct the city.
Corinth has certain goals that are different from, let's say, every other excavation because we've been digging for over 100 years. We understand a lot more about the city than we would if we only were digging in one area.
The excavations of Corinth began in 1896. And unlike other foreign schools who were excavating sanctuary sites, the Americans picked a site that was actually an ancient city. And this was very important because rather than telling us just about the religious life of a community, it tells us about life in a polis.
Because of our long history here, we have an enormously large collection and one that is well referenced in terms of context. We have material ranging from the 7th millennium BC to the 19th century AD. So it proves to be a very helpful resource for people trying to understand what they have elsewhere as well as in Corinth. This is a geometric wine pitcher made around 900 BC. And it is just one of roughly 34,000 vases that we currently have in our study collection in the museum basement.
We're working and thinking thousands of years before our time, and we're trying to make sense of it. Our fixation is obviously with what we're uncovering, and what we're uncovering 9 times out of 10 is not gold, fantastic things. It's things like these loom weights. These have been found all over the city, and we found thousands of them, and they are for holding down the threads of a vertical loom. Corinth had a huge trade, and we also were among the first to establish the sailing ship. Ships needed sails. Corinth exported textiles, and there must have been a production, big production. In the 7th and 6th century, we were selling a lot of pottery to central Italy, to the people who are called the Etruscans. That influenced their whole style, their wall paintings, their vase paintings. It all suddenly begins to reflect Corinth.
In the Roman period, Corinth was an important commercial center, with businessmen doing business here that connected the western part of the Mediterranean with the eastern. It continued to be significant into late antiquity as a center of Christianity, and it is especially well known for being a place that is visited by the Apostle Paul.
Throughout time, Corinth was central in communications because of its location. That meant that a lot of people passed through Corinth, and that meant that a lot of ideas and technologies circulated. Corinth has been producing vast amounts of material culture. Materials coming from Miletus, materials from Spain or from Morocco. We have coins from France, Asia Minor, and Egypt. And this necessitated the construction of storerooms. And every time more were needed and acquired.
In 2018, we opened a fabulous new modern storeroom, a state-of-the-art facility which is going to serve for generations as a repository for these finds.
The researchers who come year-round have gone from about 30 people to 100 people. That meant that we needed extra space for the people to spread their materials, organize their materials, and study them. There is a storage area for wall paintings, because Williams excavated spectacular wall paintings in these excavations in the East of Theatre in the 1980s. As research questions change over time, having the new apotheke means that we're able to retrieve different information, and easy retrieval makes research much easier. The puny camphor building is one of the most exciting excavations that Williams did in Corinth in the late 70s. And Williams has been a defining figure in Corinth. With his excavations and his publications, he has opened up new ways for us to think about the site and to bring new technologies to augment our knowledge. I don't think there is a museum in Greece or in the world that has fish scales from fish fished in the Atlantic and consumed in the Mediterranean.
The big ones obviously are tunny fish. These small ones, probably sea bream. And they come out of an amphora from Spain and North Africa. Some of it comes from outside the Straits of Gibraltar, and it comes into one house in Corinth. And that one house must be a trader's house. What we've got here is a trader who is passing things on to somewhere else. You don't know what's coming up in an excavation. In other words, if you don't dig it, you're not going to have any idea ever of what's down there.
We're located directly to the north of the ancient theater of Corinth, and we had some idea that there was a road directly south of here. The road network belongs to the time of the Roman colony. In order to understand how people are making their way around the city and moving from place to place, a roadway tells us a lot. With further excavation, we would hope that we could find remains of the earlier Hellenistic and classical city and learn something about its organization, how this particular area of the city functioned at that time as well. At this point, we've explored quite a lot of the city. There's still a lot that we don't understand, and we keep trying to fill in the picture piece by piece.
We have the old generations of researchers who have been producing spectacular publications and knowledge about the site, and we need to continue this and carry the torch to the future and have people come to do dissertations, to do publications, to find materials in our collections, to create new knowledge.
Textiles are a difficult archaeological material because they almost never survive. We looked at about 30 sites across the Mediterranean. And Corinth was one of the best because we have this wonderful archive and a wealth of information about the finds. Objects were excavated with a lot of care, and they were curated and kept with a thought to applying new methods in the future, and this is very valuable for us. It has given us insight into one of the greatest ancient cities of the Mediterranean. It has also allowed us to meet colleagues from across the world and to share ideas and to work together towards understanding how this ancient city worked.
Είναι μεγάλο προνόμιο να είσαι από το χωριό και να σου δίνεται αυτή η ευκαιρία από την σχολή να σκάβεις τα χώματα από το μέρος που έχεις γεννηθεί. Έχω το προνόμιο πρώτος να πιάνω στα χέρια μου κάτι που ήταν θαμμένο για τόσα χρόνια. Αυτή είναι η μαγεία της Αμερικανικής Σχολής, ότι δίνει τη δυνατότητα σε αυτόν που είναι από εδώ να δει αυτό που έχει βγάλει με τα ίδια του τα χέρια μετά μέσα στο μουσείο.
Το γεγονός ότι η Αμερικανική Σχολή Κλασικών Σπουδών σκάβει στην αρχαία Κόρινθο πάνω από 100 χρόνια, σημαίνει ότι έχει διαμορφώσει μια απολύτως βιωματική σχέση με την Κόρινθο, μια σχέση αγάπης και στοργής μεταξύ ενός πολίτη και της πόλης του. Και η Αρχαιολογική Υπηρεσία και η Αμερικανική Σχολή πιστεύουμε ότι αυτό που έχει ανάγκη η περιοχή είναι η κοινωνικοποίηση της επιστημονικής γνώσης. Θέλουμε να είμαστε πιο εξωστρεφείς.
The Steinmetz Museum Education Fellowship was started to essentially bridge the gap between scholarship and access to archaeology and learning about archaeology. to provide lessons and information both about archaeology generally, but specifically about Corinth excavations to school children around the world. Having that access to a country that's all the way across the world, to a museum that you might not get to a particular artifact that you might not have seen before, I think that's the best way to do it for students right now.
The people who created Corinth, who traveled far and wide in the Mediterranean, were really ingenious in that they always devised new ways of doing things. In Corinth, you have always people coming from different places and coexisting. The mixture of the population here meant that the area was rejuvenated by new ideas and new technologies all the time. And this never changes.
Being a part of generation after generation of students that the American school has trained here, but also getting the chance to interact on a daily basis and really sort of build a relationship that's positive is very different from many other places that I've worked. So it's a great opportunity for that.
The site can only benefit by having all of these students with their specific interests coming down and looking at it, drawing our attention to things that we didn't think about, and it then teaches them something entirely different. This constant exploration, teaching, talking. Corinth in that respect is unique. So I tell everybody to come to Corinth.
The primary aim is to reach a better understanding of the rich history of Corinth. Ultimately, what we hope to derive more than anything else is the information about the lives of the people who lived in this city over the millennia, and to come to a better understanding of not only the ancient Greeks through this period, but ultimately of ourselves.